G'day, how you going? So tonight we're going to go through what you need to do when you come across one of these signs. It can be a very daunting experience for first timers or even experienced drivers when you don't know the road. But rather than stand here and talk all about it, why don't we jump in the truck and head down the range ourselves? Let's go. Alrighty, so we're about to set off down the Moonbi Range, which is on the New England Highway, sort of near Tamworth, heading southbound. So, apologies about the picture, but I think it's actually pretty beneficial to what the message we're trying to get across here is, because conditions aren't always great when you're driving a truck. So it can be pitch dark like this, it could also be pouring with rain. So you actually need to have these skills up your sleeve before attacking the descent. So when you see one of these signs that say trucks and buses must use low gear, that effectively means use the lowest gear that you need for the weight that you've got behind your truck and how much pulling up power you've got without actually having to use your primary brake, which is your foot pedal. That pretty well means that you just want to be able to go down on its own steam with your engine brakes going. So on this occasion, I've got about 35 tonne on the back, so I'm not overly heavy, so I'm going to go down in first gear in the top box, which is pretty well where we're at the moment, which is going to hold me around that 35 mark-ish. We'll go up a little bit more, a little bit less, depending on how much of the road sort of declines away a little bit more. One of the important things to note is before you actually get to the descent, wipe off as much speed as you need, because the last thing you want to be doing is braking as you're starting to go downhill. The next thing I've also done, if your truck's fitted with one, switch on your engine fan, because you'll actually get a little bit more pull out of the engine to slow you up a little bit better. So by this point, I'm already starting to go down the range. I've got my gear, I'm happy with where I'm sitting, and I'm actually holding that speed. If you have a look over at my Truck Whiz Speedo to the left, I'm not really changing speed that much, so I'm actually holding the perfect gear without touching the foot pedal at all the whole way down. The gear you want will be determined by what sort of engine you've got, what type of truck, braking systems, and the weight. A lot of variables come into play, so if you're not sure what gear you want, you're better off picking a lower one than a higher one, because you can always go up gears a lot easier than trying to slow down, wipe off the speed and try and find a lower gear, because if you miss that lower gear, you're in a fair bit of strife, because you're going to be using up that foot pedal a fair bit, and what can occur is actual brake fade, if you've heard of that, which is your brake drums heating up and actually losing the friction there, and you lose braking power completely, and by that point you're up the creek without a paddle. So if you do find yourself in the scenario where you've got a too high a gear and you're hitting that brake a little bit too much, my recommendation is give the brakes one hard push, wipe off as much speed as you can, and get that lower gear so you can hold that the rest of the way down, and you should be fine. If you find yourself in the scenario that you can't get that gear, come to a stop. Nothing wrong with actually coming to a stop, stop the truck, start again. Finally, if your brakes do heat up too much and you can't pull up the truck at all, look for one of the arrestor beds that are going to be on the descent and just aim straight into it. You'll hit the sand and you'll come to a stop there. That is going to be your safest option. Otherwise, you may end up flying down the hill through a town or rolling it off a tight corner or something like that. As you can see by this point, I've actually hit a little bit of a flat or a plateau. So rather than speed up, see old mate that's just gone around me there, he's pretty light on, so he can go the 60 kilometers an hour, whereas I'm just holding my gear, not getting too excited about it at all, because I know there's another descent in about another kilometer. That being said, I might back off the engine brake, turn off the fan and those types of things, just to let the truck roll, hold its gear, no dramas at all, and just get myself prepared for the next bit of descent. As we make our way to the next bit of descent, let's just recap on what we've learned here today, I suppose. And that's wipe off as much speed before you actually hit the descent. When you see that sign that says trucks and buses must use low gear, there's no determined low gear. It's whatever you need to hold that truck without touching the foot pedal brake at all. That is pretty well how you go down a mountain safely in a truck. But finally, I thought I'd just point out what an arrestor bed looks like and the importance of it for the general public also. Off to the left here, you'll see that you run off the highway and actually start going upwards, generally into some sort of a sand pit or a grassed area. Now, to members of the general public, it's really important that you don't park in this area. There has been a lot lately of people doing that, walking their dogs and those types of things. So please just be wary that if you are parked there and a truck needs to go up that arrestor bed, they're going to actually plow through the car because they've got no way of stopping, and that's the only mechanism they've got at that point. So please just be wary of that before you go and park and have a little picnic.
Straight ahead.
So with that being said, thanks for watching, guys and girls, and for those of you that were a little bit unsure, hopefully you learned something today. And to anyone else that's out there that wonder why trucks go so damn slow down mountains, now you know why. This video has been brought to you by Brady Talbot of Finley's and Truck Whiz Navigation, the #1 navigation for trucks in Australia. For all merchandise for Tones Trucking Stories, head over to www.tonestruckingstories.com. Cheers.